Hey, so let's dive into this really powerful idea today. It's something that doesn't just challenge how we take pictures, but, how we see the entire world. It's a whole philosophy called silent photography, and it all kicks off by totally dismantling one of the biggest assumptions we make every single day. And boom, there it is. That's the core misunderstanding we're going to unpack. We all kind of walk through the world like we're the main character, right? Like reality is just a big backdrop, waiting for us to pay attention to it to make it real. But what if that's completely 100% backward? What if the show has been going on this whole time, whether we're watching or not? I mean, just think about it. Right this very second, completely separate from you or me, light is bending in these extravagant, incredible patterns that nobody is seeing. The universe is putting on this amazing performance, and it doesn't need an audience. At the same time, matter is arranging itself with what the source material calls Baroque precision. I mean, that's a fancy way of saying it's incredibly intricate. From how a crystal forms super slowly to the way a galaxy swirls light years away, it's all happening constantly. And every single gust of wind, every cloud that drifts by, it's a unique symphony, a one-time performance. And here's the kicker. None of it is for us. The world is already in full swing. So, to really get our heads around this new way of seeing things, we first have to unpack this profoundly anthropocentric hallucination. Okay, anthropocentric sounds complicated, but all it means is human-centered. It's the delusion that we're at the center of the universe, that everything revolves around us. This idea just flips our normal perspective on its head. We usually think that for something to really exist, it needs our consciousness to, see it. But this suggests the total opposite. The universe of appearances, of things happening, was going on long before we showed up. And our own consciousness? That's just something the universe does when it gets complex enough. Wild, right? Okay, so if the universe isn't waiting around for us, what in the world does that mean for photography? Well, it means we have to take a hard look at the main tool we use, because the camera, as simple as it seems, actually carries around some pretty heavy philosophical baggage. The way we usually do photography is built on these three big ideas. First up, extraction. We take a picture, right? The language itself suggests we're removing something. Then there's ownership. It becomes my photo of my vacation. And finally, and this is a big one, the primacy of the observer. This moment is important because I was here to see it and frame it. It's all about ego. And this is the turning point. Silent photography isn't some new camera setting or a fancy filter. It's a philosophy. It's an act of resistance, of actively pushing back against that ego, against that deep-seated impulse to own and extract and control. This brings us right to the heart of the practice. What happens when you can actually quiet that part of your brain that's constantly naming things, judging them, and trying to frame them up just right? Seriously, just pause and think about that. We all have that voice in our head, that constant inner narrator, right? The one that's like, oh, that's a beautiful tree, or I should take a picture of that sunset. What if you could just let that voice dissolve? What happens then? When you get to that state of quiet, you start to realize something profound. The very act of raising your camera to your eye to frame a shot, well, that's an intrusion. It's you imposing your will, your idea of what's important, on a scene that was already perfectly complete without you. And it's the same thing with choosing a subject. The second you decide, I'm going to photograph this, but not that, you've just brought your ego and your preferences right back into the picture, at the exact moment you were trying to let them go. And finally, any attempt to improve the scene, waiting for better light, moving a bit to the left for a better composition, that's also interference. The whole point isn't to make a better picture. The whole point is to disappear. So, how on earth do you actually do this? Well, the practice isn't an act of creation at all. It's a discipline. It's about stepping away, about becoming a quiet, empty space where the world can just reveal itself. It kind of happens in 3 stages. First, you just wait. You go out with your camera and you let that nagging ambition, that part of you that needs to get a great shot, you just let it get tired and give up. Then boredom kicks in. But instead of fighting it, you lean into it. You let it dissolve all your restlessness. And finally, you just keep waiting, quietly, until the place around you sort of forgets you're there. It completes itself. You become part of the scene instead of an intruder. Now, if a photograph happens in this state, It's not a choice. It's more like a reflex. The scene just insists itself on you, and the shutter clicks almost on its own. So you don't need to try again for a better one. That single shot was the event. Taking more would just be your ego trying to add footnotes. So what is the final image then? After all this, what do you have? It's really not what we think of as a picture. It's something else entirely. The shift is just massive. A normal photo is an act of will, right? It's a message you want to send, a story you want to tell. But a silent photograph, it's a reflex. It's not a story, it's a fossil trace. It's not a message from you, it's a residue of reality itself. And that leads us to this incredible definition. It's not about your artistic vision. It's about creating a moment of silence inside yourself that's so total, so complete, that the world can leave its own impression on the film in its own language. Which brings us right back to where we started, back to this really humbling but also incredibly liberating idea. The whole practice of silent photography isn't really about getting a certain type of picture. It's about arriving at this radical realization. The universe is not and never ever was waiting for you. And so that leaves us with one last question to think about. This isn't about flying off to some remote wilderness. It could be a park bench, a quiet corner of your apartment, a city street before the sun comes up. Where can you go to let that inner narrator finally fall silent and just let the world be?